Good evening, and welcome to the October 28th Civil Service Commission meeting. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine.
Here.
Commissioner Gantis.
Here.
Commissioner Abkarian.
Here.
Vice Chairman Nukian.
Here.
And for the record, Commissioner Coleman is absent.
And he sends his love to everyone,
And we send our love to him.
except you, John.
That's correct.
Okay. Next.
Minutes.
Move for approval of the minutes.
So here. Second.
Can we have roll call?
No, excuse me, I think we are... Oh, yes.
The woman you can up carry.
That's right.
Commissioner Devine.
Yes.
Gantis.
Abstain?
Abkarian.
Yes.
Nukian.
Yes. What's next?
Oral communications.
We have no cards. What's next?
Eligible list established.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this item has the eligible lists that have been established since our last meeting. As you can see, we have 6 lists that have been established, some promotional, some open, some promotional and open. According to the report, we have the total number of applications received in one column, and then the total number who were successful in making the eligible list on the other column, far right. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them for you.
Any comments or questions? What's next?
Revised class specification for approval and request to post open bulletin for fire marshal.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is a request to modify an existing class specification for the fire marshal position, and there's sort of a second step to this is a request for an open bulletin for this position. To deal with the specification first, this is a position that a few years back was civilianized. In the past, this position had previously been handled on a rotating basis by fire battalion chiefs, but it was made a civilian classification back in 2006, and it was filled in that capacity back in 2006. The individual in that position has retired, and it's now time for us to recruit once again for the position. As far as the class specification, there are some minor changes being made to some of the minimum requirements. It seems to be broadening the eligibility pool just in some small, subtle ways. The second part of this, of course, is the request that this be an open recruitment. And under our rules, the position has been recruited for on a promotional basis, and then it goes to an open recruitment process. It requires commission approval. According to the staff report, we do have some candidates internal, but we don't believe it's a sufficient number to proceed with just a promotional only. So we are requesting an open examination to see what is potentially out there in the labor market. So with that, be happy to try and answer your questions on these items. Ms. Hunanian from my staff is here. She worked on both the spec and the bulletin, and Chief Scoggins is here as well.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Devine.
Yes.
Commissioner Gantis.
Yes.
Commissioner Abkarian.
Yes.
Commissioner Nukian.
Yes. What's next?
HR activity report.
Move to approve. I'm just kidding.
Roll call.
After all that work. Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, I'm very proud to present this report. Those of you who have been on the Commission a while are aware of the work that goes into this. And really, this is an annual compilation of various activities and processes that are handled by the Human Resources Department and again, your staff to the Commission. Most of the numbers and the figures in here are things that do directly fall under the Commission's purview. Ideally, those things related to recruitment and examination, but we've also included a number of things about labor negotiations and some of the other services, benefits, and training that are provided by the Human Resources Department. This report is. Again, it addresses the activities that have been compiled during the fiscal year 2008-2009. We always show the current year's figures, and also as a comparison, we show the previous year's figures. Just in general, there are some noteworthy things to point out. The biggest one being a reduction in the recruitment activity, and in turn, a reduction in testing activity, number of applicants, the number of exams, and so on and so forth. The city had a hiring freeze, and I won't say a firm hiring freeze, but a rather partial hiring freeze, which took effect in October 2008, and it's put a slowdown on the recruitment processes for the majority of the fiscal year. The other thing that we're pointing out in the summary of the report is just a continued very low rate of turnover in the organization. In fact, it's actually gone down from last year, which was pretty low. Last year it was 6.03. This year it's down to 4.98, and that's actually remarkable given the fact that we did see a very high number of retirements over this past year. In fact, we had some 51 individuals retire. But in spite of the number of people, the separations in all the other categories were way down. So we like to think that the rate of
turnover is a good sign of stability in the organization, and it certainly is a sign of the times as far as our economy and people wanting to stay in their jobs. So there are a variety of other facts and figures within this report, which we'd be happy to discuss with you as much time as you want to spend. So with that, I'll open it up. But before I do that, let me once again thank and commend Debbie Mallon from our staff. And Debbie's sitting up here in the front row. She's the one who compiles all this information, and she's really done a great job making it very, very clear and comprehensive. So I do want to thank Debbie for once again doing an outstanding job on this report. So with that.
would have gone down again, given the economy and so many people looking for work. But we can delve into that a little more because it may in fact have something to do with the number of bulletins we have posted there. Because on our website, if you go in, there's a very clear item that you click that says jobs, and then it lists all the jobs that we have open. And maybe a year ago, we would have had 25 jobs listed. This current year, we might have had at any point maybe 5 to 10, and it could be an indication of the number of jobs. And a hit might be how many times someone looks at one job and compares to the next.
I see.
So
it's not just going to the site; it's actually probably clicking on an actual bulletin. Maybe that's why.
That would be my assumption, and because we do have the bulletins fully listed there, and if you want to see all the minimum requirements and all that, you can actually just the fire marshal bulletin. Mm-hmm. One would be able to go in and fully read that, and then they could browse the next one in line. So that could be an explanation for that.
Okay. My fellow
Maybe the city
commissioners?
council meetings aren't as interesting anymore. People don't. Just kidding.
I didn't
Just
say that.
kidding, please.
Mr. Garion.
I don't want to phone calls now from City Council.
Speaking of
Just
that,
joking around.
I will note that our jobs section on the website has traditionally been the most sought-after part of the website, even more so than city council agendas and things like that.
Really?
Oh, yes.
We're digging it deep.
You're going to get us killed today. Thank you, sir. I love you too. Okay.
Just joking.
Any
You know
comments
I'm joking.
from our fellow commissioners?
Debbie, just an incredible job. This is something that we've been doing for a few years now, and it is just the amount of information you get from 5-6 pages in here is just tremendous. So just for that, I want to thank you, because you just glance at it and you kind of get a general idea as to where we're going. It's just incredible. It's good stuff.
Absolutely.
As usual.
Okay. I see no comments. What's next?
Report on advertising budget expenditures, July 2009 to September 2009.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is our quarterly report on advertising expenditures. It addresses the advertising occurring from July 1st to September 30th of this fiscal year, essentially the first quarter of the fiscal year. It addresses the amounts expended on advertising, and we also try and give an update on some of the other things we're working on, some of the other events that we've attended and are participating. In fact, we're some of our staff are participating right now as we speak at a college and career fair up at Glendale College, or up at the Civic Auditorium, which is sponsored by the school district. So we're trying to, in spite of the fact that there are fewer job openings, we're still trying to maintain an active presence in the community, and so when we do have those openings that come up, that people are educated and aware of what we've been working on. As far as the actual report, again, a very small amount we've expended thus far on sort of the specialized positions. We have we're doing a recruitment for a fleet manager early on in this fiscal year, and we've advertised in a couple of the specific trade journals for that. We had an internal audit associate position, which had some generalized advertising for that, executive administrator for the Verdugo Fire Communications, which required some specialized advertising, expending only about $1,500 in the first quarter. So we are spending that money wisely, we hope, and I think it's somewhat reflective of the number of jobs that we have open and really our desire to advertise in the right sources. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer those. And I do want to acknowledge Rosie Akopian from my staff who monitors this activity and prepares this report every quarter. So.
Taxpayers are in good hands. Out of $51,000 budgeted, only $1,500 has been spent. So this is actually interesting. My question is, what happens if by July you just have only expanded $10,000? What happens to the rest of the money that's been budgeted?
It's turned back to the city, to the general fund. Yeah, and that's
Has that happened?
Sure. Oh yes, it's happened every year. We've gotten good at expending the advertising funds. And I got to tell you, the websites and our own website are the most effective means of advertising. I've said it many times. We used to advertise in the LA Times and other print publications, and it was exorbitant, the cost. We would spend over $1,000 for a single ad on Sunday, the Sunday paper, and it just doesn't pay to do that any longer. And print advertising is dying.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look at the classified ads in any newspaper, it's barely 1 or 2 pages.
And I think that's true for a lot of industries. Real estate is the same thing. We used to spend unbelievable amounts in the LA Times, but as you said, they're about to close doors.
Sam won't have a job pretty soon.
I don't have a job.
You can just go on the internet. You don't need SAB anymore.
You don't
So
have to I don't have it now.
Is that why you're growing the beard? You don't have the money for the razor?
Taliban man. On the cover for the Taliban. What's next?
Amendments to the civil service rules.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I think that there's an agreement that we should postpone this particular agenda item to a meeting in January to be decided by Mr. Doyle, a meeting where we would have a lot of time. I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion about a lot of these amendment items by us and by others. So my suggestion would be, and by then hopefully Mr. Coleman will also be here as well. So my recommendation would be to postpone that, and I think that item was actually pulled, or is it still?
Yes, it's pulled. So
Okay, so it's not even on our... Do we need to have a motion or anything for that, or we're okay?
It's actually technically on your agenda since it was printed. The commission, through either unanimous consent vote or just by consensus, can note that it should be taken off calendar to be placed back on a date convenient to staff and the commission in January 2010.
I think everyone's in consensus with that? Okay.
That's what he said.
And then, Mr. Doyle, you will get back to us with the date?
certainly.
Okay. One quick question that I had. I noticed, maybe I'm incorrect, but I just want to confirm, the rule amendments, the items that we had last time, I think there's been some changes to that. Is that correct? Or is everything still...
That is correct.
Okay.
There was one item which I had given you in a previous iteration of this report that was pulled because we found some legal problems with that one.
I just want to make sure. So if we shouldn't automatically assume that what we've read before is going. So
Correct.
Next time that it comes up, we should still go ahead, unless we don't. Are there? If there's other changes, it's going to be covered on that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll tell you right now, the item that was pulled, it was something submitted by staff, and it was a recommendation having to do with hearings. And Mr. Howard alerted me to an element within the Brown Act that would have made that proposal not appropriate. So
we'll wait to hear from you for the scheduled date, and hopefully our Chairman Coleman will be able to join us.
Yes.
Okay, what's next?
Agenda forecast.
Mr. Doyle?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, just to go over the next few meetings we have. Our next regularly scheduled meeting would have been November the 11th, which is a holiday. And as you recall, we have gone ahead and rescheduled that meeting to be on November the 18th, starting at 3 o'clock. And the reason for that time is that there's a meeting with, I believe it's the planning board meets that afternoon, not necessarily here, but up in MSB 105. And so in order to televise both, we have to finish this one first and then the planning meeting. So that meeting will start at 3 o'clock. We do have a number of class specifications and bulletins, and I'm aware of a reinstatement request that will be coming for that meeting. So, and then the meeting just prior to Thanksgiving, we traditionally cancel that meeting. So the meeting following that would be December the 9th. Very likely the only meeting we have in December. So.
Assuming we have a meeting then?
We probably will. We'll have some business for you. Once a month is
Okay.
work.
Any comments, any questions? Okay, what's next?
Reports and information, past due employee performance evaluations.
Gentlemen.
Me. Okay, here's our no past dues that we always read. City Clerk's Office, no past dues. City Manager's Office, no past dues. And somehow we missed the City Attorney's Office. Oh, sorry about that.
Be nice.
City Treasurer's Office, no past dues. City Treasurer's Office, no past dues. Development Services, no past dues. Finance, no past dues. Fire Department's on the list I don't want to say anything, though. Glendale Water and Power, 374 employees, no past dues. Human Resources, no past dues. Planning, no past dues. Police, 364 employees, no past dues. Public Works, 323 employees, no past dues. That's it. We are still maintaining. Let's see what we have. We have 13 first notices. We're down to just 2 second notices and no third notices. So that's good news. We're keeping up.
Okay, what's next?
Civil Service Commission and our staff comments.
Commissioner Carrion.
I have one comment pertaining to,
Are we going to lose our
first of all,
commission
Mr.
seat
Scott,
because...
Mr. Scott, see what you're missing every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. Maybe you want to change your schedule. But I have a issue. I really think we need to be a little bit more careful in canceling meetings. I know that we cancel them because there's not too many items on the agenda, and I know this was the idea was a good idea, but I think the entire, first of all, people's right to come in open public and speak in front of us, and the second, the entire cohesion of this body is going away. We keep canceling meetings. I think even if we have to meet for 10 or 15 minutes, I think just consistency was something that we had. Also, it gives people, again, a right to come and address Civil Service Commission or any commission for that matter in a public hearing once every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. And it's really not a burden on any of the commissioners. If it is, they shouldn't be here, really. So I would caution us and this body in canceling meetings just on a whim in the future. I think we need to be very careful. We should cancel them only on very, very limited situations, but not to cancel them anytime we just have a few items on the agenda just because we don't want to bring everyone here. As I said, I think that we need to be very careful with that, and we've been doing too many of those, and I've been guilty of it also. But at the same time, I think that we need to be very, very careful because I really feel like we're just losing some of the structure of the Civil Service Commission as a result of so many cancellations we've had in 2009.
Actually, I'm in agreement with you. I see your point, and I fully agree. And also, I miss Mr. Gantis when I don't see him.
Everybody misses me. I agree with Mr. Epkarian as well. For instance, Mike, off the cuff, and I'm glad you mentioned it, Albert, a comment of canceling December 9th. If we were to have to do that, that would probably mean there would be a period from November 18th to almost 2-month period that we wouldn't have a meeting. And while it might work from a work standpoint, I think Mr. Epkarian has a point. We need to be cognizant of the time periods and a little more sensitive to the public on issues like that.
Any other comments? Actually, I was going to ask, we have our fire chief here. How's Patrick doing?
Good question.
Sorry, I know you were typing away, but I wanted to catch you.
Yeah, he was at lunch.
Good evening, members of the Commission. Harold Scoggins, Fire Chief. Patrick Mbarchian, our firefighter who was burned, actually returned to work. Today is his third shift back. So
Really?
He's been back about a little over a week now. And actually, when you see his hands, it's pretty incredible, the recovery he has had. And but you can actually look into his arms and still see some of the scars, but he's very, very happy to be back to work.
Good. Well, send him our love, and
I will.
thank you for everything.
We'd love to see him in the next meeting. If he
Yeah,
has
actually,
a chance to come
that'd
up
be
here.
perfect.
We'll try to work it out in the
Would love
future.
to see. Would love to see him either in the Civil Service Commission or maybe even in a City Council meeting. I'm sure the City Council members would love to see him and see his progress.
If I would have known, I would have invited him this evening because I saw him today.
Okay.
He's working today.
Thank you.
All right.
What's next?
Closed session, there is none. Adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Good night.